This year, give the gift of safety, give the gift of reliability, and give the gift of all-wheel drive. Lease the proven 2018 Honda CR-V LX all-wheel drive for $199 per month. Get great features and all-wheel drive for only $199 per month. I'm Jason Perico, and there's no better gift than a Honda.
Welcome back. Time now for the Gannon Golden Knights Coaches Show. He is the head coach, Brad Rzyczycki. Coach, welcome in.
Thanks, Alex.
So, it's a wrap on the 2018 season, and is it safe to say it was a tough one for you?
I think that would be fair to say. Especially, not to get into too many details about it, just the uncontrollable things that happened with this football during the course of the season. But we had a meeting today as a team, and we can look at it as losses, and we had 9 of them, of which we were winning every single game we played this year. But you need to use it as learning experience too. So anytime you don't finish a goal, or you don't finish the second half, or whatever it might be in life, it's instead of saying you lost, it's a learning experience for the guys. So I think we'll come out the other end of it really good.
Was it easy to kind of lose track of? Obviously, a key for you is keeping the team disciplined. That means paying attention in class. That means not getting in trouble off the field, but also late in games and things like that. It's just, is all that in play when you're kind of things get out of focus late in games, do you think?
Yeah, some of it, when you look back, we could sit there and say we didn't finish, but they were freakish things that happened. It's I don't want to say it was freakish when Martell Davis picked off the 100-yard pass, but we needed some type of spark like that in the second half, and we were finding our ways to lose games early on. Then we just ran into the injury bug. We're just running out of players for the most part, and most time most teams do, and we had to persevere through that. But no, I think we learned a valuable lesson. Schematically there were a lot of things new. Even though we had some kids coming back, there were kids that hadn't played in a couple years, like Jay Bullock and AJ Satcher, that when you take a year off due to injury, with a different scheme and the different things that happened with us, it just took a little bit more time than we all wanted. But in the end, I think we're going to come out of this thing okay. I told him today, I said, look, we can look at it, and I know public perception would say 2-9. But there were so many good things that we did, and the fact that they fought, and there was never a lack of effort on the field for 11 games. That says something about the character of the kids. And we practiced at 6 a.m. on Tuesdays. There was never a long practice from that standpoint. So life's going to throw you these different things. We could have easily been 9-2 as opposed to 2-9, and we've got to figure that out as a coaching staff and with the players in the room, and we will, for the most part. But there's good kids in there. I'm not ashamed of any part of the season, the way they fought and played the entire year.
It's tough when you think about it. You've got smart guys that would have to move from a position that they've played for maybe over a decade, and then you got to move them within the span of 1 week to a completely different job. I mean, it doesn't matter how intelligent that kid is. How do you get them to grasp that throughout the course of just 1 week of practice?
Yeah, when you talk about, I know defensively, what we did is we take basically our linebackers and we push them up to defensive end, which you would see on the field, but they're stand-up defensive ends, so they're linebackers just the same as the guys, 2 guys. And
old school, outside linebackers.
With all the zone read stuff, you need a faster kid that can chase out those quarterbacks and when they're reading them. And taking the safeties and putting them at linebacker and be faster at the gap. So you try to put as much speed on the field as you possibly can. With that being said, it takes away from what we did previously. We're not heavy-handed taking on blocks. We're trying to blow gaps and penetrate, and that's different. And you can mock it out and you can scrimmage it as much as you want. We got better at it. We did a really good job stopping the run early in the season. And then we got into a little bit of trouble just not having enough bodies to be able to put out there. And like Clarion game, we were in a 3-man front, which is not what we want to do, but we ran out of bodies up front for that game. So we ran into different scenarios where I walked in here and said, look, schematically we've got to get these kids in a position where they can make plays and not overcomplicate the scheme, which I don't think we did. But, it's an enduring season. Playing Keith Thompson and Reggie Hamlet, kids that are true freshmen, they found out what it's like to play an entire season. And it's not easy for a kid walking in. So there's a lot of good from that standpoint, but yeah, my kids need a rest for about a month, and then we need to get back after it in the off season.
Did you find any hidden gems? Did you learn anything that you can use going forward that you wouldn't have if you hadn't had to face the complications you did? Does that make sense?
Yeah, I think so. We put some kids in some dynamic situations that going into the season I know we wouldn't have done, but because of the situation dictating what we had left on the bench to be able to stick out there, I think we found some some really good attributes of some kids that we just didn't know. And to be honest with you, when you bring them all in, and we had a large freshman class, I think there was 45 of them in the end. We played quite a few of them, and we got to see what they can do in practice too. But there were some kids that we potentially didn't think they'd be ready till maybe their redshirt junior year that went and flashed in practice that potentially we think that they're going to be on the field next year. So, yeah, there's a lot of good with it. I couldn't say enough about the freshman class we brought in. I mean, they've done a really good job of just running scout team and on getting after it. So marrying that up with what we got coming back and the fact that we medically redshirted some of those seniors that will be back, I think we'll be in a good spot next year.
The seniors that graduate on, you got to think that you learn a lot in football, and having an 11-0 year, does that teach you about life all that much? That's not realistic. You're not going 11-0 in life, kid.
Well,
it's just not going to happen.
It sure wouldn't be bad to have happen.
You're right, but
I can handle it.
but it's almost more realistic. It's more practical. We're not talking about, you're not coaching, Ohio State, with all due respect. I mean, you're making an actual difference in the lives of kids.
Well, I hope so. Teaching the life lessons through the game of football. I mean, I know it's cliche to say it, but it in real situations, and I tell those guys all the time, situations don't make a man, they reveal them. And some of the things that happened to us with us this year, there were some leaders that stepped up that I don't know that I knew that was going to happen. So the situations kind of showed its face with a lot of our guys. So, yeah, you can't mimic those things. That's life in general, whether it's football or anything that happens in life. So yes, you're absolutely right. The teaching lessons and lessons learned for what we went through this year are definitely going to carry with those kids for the rest of their lives.
And I could see how outside perception, those that don't know what had gone on, might eat at you. But at the end of the day, the brotherhood that is in that locker room with those guys that stuck it out, you don't mimic that. I mean,
yeah. Well, I don't. It's crazy because I'm 45. I got my family here with me right now. I don't, public perception, it's so overblown, especially in this day and age.
It's annoying, though.
Well, right? I can't get into social media or blogs or anything like that. I just don't pay attention to it. What matters to me is the 90 kids in that locker room, the coaching staff, and these two that are sitting here with me today, my family. Beyond that, I'm still going to put my head on a pillow knowing I did all I can. So I don't really get into that where it's going to bother me that much.
Sure. And I think that if you could have gotten Marcus Jones going on Saturday, man, you might have won that game.
How about that? 410 yards and 7 touchdowns.
I know it's cliche, but the snow tires, you almost can't talk about how many yards he had without talking about, he put the snow tires on. Those aren't ideal conditions to rack up 410 yards either.
It's hard to explain what that kid, how he runs and what he does, how physical and violent he is. He's beating himself up because he was tired for the 2-point conversion that we failed late, but if he wasn't who he is, we'd never be in half the games we were in for the most part this year. I mean, collectively we did a lot, but he gave it all on Saturday, and to have 410 yards, you got to give credit to the offensive line, the receivers downfield blocking like always, and to their credit, when Marcus is successful, it's because those guys have went out and finished out blocks and took a lot of pride in it. But then there's sometimes Marcus has got to go win on his one-on-ones, and he did on Saturday.
Obviously, it was a shootout. Does him being tired factor into why you're going for 2 late in that game?
I think there were a lot of issues. Alex Hutchins got hurt. He got a concussion during the course of the game. He's our long snapper. And at that point in time, either I burn a red shirt in the very last game of the season, or I stick Matt Hackathorn out there, who actually finished off our punt and did a good job with it, that periodically can do it. But we didn't practice a lot with Matt doing it. So that had a lot to do with it. The weather conditions with Brian Stribel being a freshman, the timing mechanisms of the snap to kick is really important. And we spent a lot of time with that with Alex, Brian, and Jared Morrison, who ended up being our holder, because our 2 holders, Jason Dombach and Joey Cox, were out. So this was a brand new holder. So when you put all those together, I thought our better option, after I watched the second extra point get blocked, I thought our better option, I got on the phones with our offensive coordinator and said, look, we're going to go for 2 from here on out. I just think it gives us a better ability to score and potentially win the game.
Makes sense. All right, Coach Brad Rzyczycki, now you hit the recruiting trail. You get quite literally no time off. That's why, and you brought your beautiful family in. We're glad to see them, but I know that you got to carve out some time for the family, because you're going to be in people's living rooms trying to bring the next wave of Golden Knights to town, huh?
Yeah, I mean, they're pretty used to it. I think this is my 23rd year coaching, and recruiting hasn't changed from that standpoint. So being a coach's wife, coach's family, I try to spend as much time as I possibly can with them, but they know that I'll get Thanksgiving and then be out, and then get back for Christmas and be out. But it's part of the business, man. I could be digging a ditch, so I'm not complaining about it. It's the greatest job on the face of the earth, and I love it.
What does this make the pitch, if there is such a thing, tougher when you go to bring in kids, 2-9 record? Do they look at that? Or?
Yeah, Because of where I'm at, I think you need to bring a unique kid in. I mean, the academics are challenging again, and I think that's why my kids walk out of there with degrees that, pay them a lot of money. They do what they love to do, and they're very successful and leave out of there. So it takes a unique person to persevere at that school. So, it's my job to be able to do it. There's plenty of things I need to be able to sell. We have a lot coming back from that standpoint, so we don't need a ton from that standpoint. But no, we want to go find kids that are gonna marry up what we've done to this point. And I don't know that it'll be an obstacle. No.
Great stuff. Coach Brad Rzyczycki putting a bow on the 2018 season. How quickly do you move on from it? I know as a competitor it bugged you, so do you hold on to that, or is this something that you can kind of turn the page on?
Well, we need to learn our lessons from what we learned this year. I mean, we can't forget about that, but we kick a golden ball before each game that we play, and I told the guys in the meeting today at some point we're going to have a ceremony to maybe blow up or burn or, knife that ball, however we have to do, bury it, put a bow on it, and move on to the 2019 season. But we can't forget the lessons that we learned and where we've been through this season. But yeah, we definitely want to put it back behind us from that standpoint. But there's a lot of valuable experience that we learned this year that we can't forget.
Great stuff. Thank you so much, Coach. Appreciate all the time this year.
Thanks, Alex.